Well, good morning, everybody, to the Administrative Practices Committee, February 2nd, 9 a.m. And we will go ahead and open up with public comment on items that are not on the agenda. If any public has public comment, please star 9 to raise your hand on items that are not on today's agenda. Okay. Seeing none, we'll close public comment, and we'll open it up to the approval of the minutes from the January 5th APC meeting.
Approve.
I second.
Yes. Okay, great. Well, then we'll close item number 1. Item number 2 is an update to District Policy 2030. Jana.
That's me.
Jana, that's you.
Directors, a very minor policy update is needed. By the dates of, obviously, when this policy was made, it was probably right after this occurred, so depending on leap year, we have different timing of holidays. And we have the observed holidays are obviously set by policy. Generally, though, an observed policy, one that occurs on a weekend day, has sort of an observation rule. So if it's Saturday, you observe it on the Friday. If it's Sunday, you observe it on the Monday. However, this creates an issue when the observed holiday falls exactly in the next calendar year. So we, from a perspective of, say, January 1st, so if you see in the memo, Saturday, January 1st is in 2022. So we can't observe it on Friday because it's really a next calendar year's holiday. We did look to see if there are standards because generally we would follow state or federal guidelines, and they're a little actually all over the place. So we thought we would, again, we still keep the same standards, but we added some language in the flexibility, meaning we will, if it's an observed holiday, it needs to be observed in the calendar year it occurs, because we would be out of balance with the number or hours of holiday hours for the calendar year of 2021 if we celebrated New Year's Day 2022 on the Friday, which is New Year's Eve. And that meant in 2022, we would have one less holiday because we celebrated 2021. So we need to, and the language that we changed there on that second page is page on observed holidays. Generally, when any of the above holidays fall on Sunday, you know, we still keep that same scheme, but we added an observed holiday will be observed in the year that it occurs. So there's some adjustment needed for that year. So while HR generally, the holidays are always the same as per policy and also the labor contracts, and it's just where that occurs. But everyone is always waiting and wondering. Sometimes when you have an observed holiday, you don't know what's going to happen with that. How can you issue the calendar? We realized, well, if we're following policy, it would not conform. So we wanted to make sure that we just added that flexibility for basically every 7 years that this might occur.
Right. I have no questions.
Okay.
I finally figured it out, this part about the calendar year. I'm like, oh, this, okay. It was complicated, but yeah.
I have some questions.
Yes.
You mentioned you looked at what the state observes and what other people observe. You said it was all over the board. What do you mean by that?
Meaning some were celebrating it on a Friday, and some were celebrating on a Monday.
Before, so some of them were doing it on the year before.
Yes, yes. And again, we generally will look to the, I forget which state, in the state of California, which entity, but we usually will look at the observed. We look at the
follow
federal.
the state holiday. So that would mean that if on January 3rd, 2022, we're going to take a observed holiday. No, NID is going to shut down the Monday after, rather than when everyone else is open.
But the problem is we then have one additional holiday, either the calendar year prior, the calendar year, and one less holiday post. And so what we're trying to do is just make it uniform, that we have the same calendar and the same observed holidays, And this odd seventh year, every time we, jump forward another year and the holiday falls on a Sunday, we observe it the Friday before.
I mean, some people are doing the same as we are.
Well, I would
Some
think
are
that as
doing
a state agency, we are a state agency. We're chartered under the state of California. Seems like we would follow the state guidelines. And the state guidelines, it was very easy for me to find state holidays. When a holiday falls on a Saturday, employees shall receive holiday credit. And that way, we're not shutting down our business on Monday when everyone else is open for business.
So our policy was formulated to follow the labor contract. And actually, we met with AFSCME to share this with them. They said, we agree, you need this flexibility, and when we go into labor negotiations, we'll...
Would give flexibility. They could take it as a paid holiday, a holiday credit. That's how it always is. I mean, even counties, everywhere I've worked, if it was a Saturday, you get holiday credit.
We're not taking away a holiday.
No, I know, but we're making it so we're going to be off on a day when everyone else is in business. I mean, if you choose to, one person be off. But if we're going to close down our business on the Monday after because we're going to take it the Monday after,
So I guess think of it over the course of the year. All we're talking about is New Year's Day. We're not talking about Martin Luther King Day or President's Holiday or any of these others.
And we're talking about one.
This really only affects the one holiday per year that happens every 7 years when that New Year's Day falls on a Sunday. And
and it says an observed holiday will be observed in the year that it occurs. So it'll be an observed holiday. We're going to shut down as an observed. We're going to say, okay, January 20th, we're going to observe New Year's Day. We're going to shut down and observe January 1st, New Year's Day, and someday in that year.
No.
That's what it says. An observed holiday will be observed, which means the business is closed down. Is that correct?
Business is never closed down in MIT.
But major staff, you guys.
No, operations, water operations is
would stay on
24/7, 365. And they're paid accordingly when they have holidays work. There's special rules in the MOUs on holidays.
So why wouldn't we just be clear and follow the state holiday schedule?
Because it would go against we observe these holidays during a calendar year and you get X hours, and therefore we would be off on our hours.
Well, they would just have to observe, they would just have to receive the holiday credit and take it in that year.
That would require a different change of policy. That's what we weren't trying to do here.
It goes into what Janice, I think, alluding to, is it goes into our MOUs, which talks about a particular number of holidays.
And where are those MOUs? Do we have the, can we look at that?
It's on the website.
It's the MOU and this policy, I'm pretty sure word for word. When it comes to these types of things that apply to all employees, there is very little change. In fact, I don't think there's any change between the policy as it stands and what the holiday article on all the MOUs say. I can certainly provide it, but...
Yeah. The MOUs you're referring to, the labor...
Yes, sorry, the union contract.
But so explain to me, what does it mean to say an observed holiday will be observed in the year that it occurs? What does that mean? It means really nothing to me, but what does it mean? So an observed holiday
is one that we know occurs on a weekend. So every year, there's generally the rule that let's just say Christmas Day occurs on a Saturday, we observe it on Friday. We observe Columbus Day. If it occurs on a Sunday, we observe it on a Monday. So New Year's Day, we're going to observe it on Monday the 3rd instead of Saturday the 1st. Correct, because it's a 2022 holiday. So it becomes an observed holiday, but only after the calendar year kicks over. So it's inherent upon us to give in one full calendar year. So for 2021, our New Year's Day has been celebrated, right? 2021 has already been celebrated. And it's been celebrated 2021. We don't owe people another New Year's Day in 2021. They get to celebrate it in 2022.
This particular year, in 2021, January 1, which is the observance of the holiday,
on Friday,
typically, is on Saturday.
2021 was on Friday.
2022, is going to be a Saturday. If we follow the guidance and
It would be on
the
Yeah.
policy,
What is City of
we would
Grass Valley
approve
and
it
Nevada
on
City?
Friday. What we're recommending
I
is
understand exactly
during
what
this
you're saying.
one
I understand exactly.
we project it to the following year so that we observe the equal
But when in
amount
the
of
following
holidays
year? When?
in every given year.
When?
What's that?
When in the following? It will be observed in the year that it occurs. When? When will it be observed?
It will be observed in
It would be the Monday.
January 3rd of
Yeah.
2022.
But that calendar hasn't been issued yet, so we don't,
Yeah.
it would just
What-
be the next year's.
What does the City of Grass Valley and Nevada City do? What is their policies on holidays?
What does it matter?
Right, I think we're
Well,
making.
because we should be trying, if we're gonna be closed down, if we're
I
gonna
think
close,
we're
if we're not
making-
closed
Closed
down
down.
offices, well, we're gonna continue to provide water, and we're gonna continue, but would you be here on New Year's Day? Would internal staff be here in the customer service? Would everybody else besides people that are working at treatment plants? And,
It's an observed holiday.
Right.
That's it.
Just like any other.
right,
And Mondays and Fridays, obviously, for those ones that occur on the weekends, are always gonna go there. It's just every 7 years, there's this one issue about New Year's Day.
So
That
are
is only gonna occur once every 7 years.
Director Peters, are you concerned that we are out of step with the state guiguidelines and the City of Grass Valley, Nevada City, and our
Everyone
local
else.
partners?
yeah.
And
And
are you
it's very
suggesting,
unclear. It's just say if it's, we need to say,
because it's evergreen, it's for the rest of time, we can't really say it will be observed January 3rd of 2022.
You'd have
Because
to go
then we gotta come back in 2022
Right,
and
This is
redo
why
it.
we just were very, well, I would say generic, but and this is really only to address this case where, we have a end of year and beginning of year holiday. It's got to be observed in the year that it occurs, because we both, and by our MOU and policy, say, in one calendar year, you get these days that are all, and if it's, the calendar year has gone over, then you didn't get your days.
104 hours, or is it 140 hours? There's a set number of hours maximum that we have embedded within our MOUs and our policies that we have for holidays in any particular year. If we don't change this now, we are going to run this Friday of December 31st
Yeah.
would be a holiday, therefore it would fall under
I
12
understand.
holidays.
Therefore, you have
I
celebrated
don't
New Year's,
understand the problem.
you
Explain that
celebrated
5
New
times.
Year's Day twice in 1 year.
I understand that. I
What would
completely
you like to
understand that.
see?
My concern is that, why are we not being consistent with state holidays?
What does it matter?
Because,
what does that
because
matter?
this falls on any situation. This is only for once every 7 years. This is on any situation. And
No,
it's
no,
very
it-
vague.
it-
Okay, so if you want to say that, I would like to make this sentence more clear. An
Okay.
observed holiday will be observed in the year that it occurs. That seems very, very vague to me. That
How would
doesn't-
you like to
It's
reword it?
not vague to me.
What would you like to reword it as?
If January 1st falls on a Saturday, it will be observed on Monday the 3rd. If it's truly only a single option, otherwise I don't know why you wouldn't say if a holiday falls on a Saturday, employees shall receive holiday credit.
If January 1 falls on a Saturday, I'm just
Mhm.
getting specific.
Yeah, the holiday shall be observed on January 3rd. If that's what, I just don't understand why we don't make it more generic, I just don't understand why. You said you looked at a lot of different places, I looked at a few other places, and this seemed to be pretty consistent, so I don't know who what other, entities you looked at. It would have been nice to have a summary of what other entities do, and so we
I
can
don't
see
think,
how we compare.
I think we're spending too much time on.
Because we should be doing business at the same time other people are doing business.
It doesn't matter, Laura. It doesn't matter.
It does.
No,
I think it does.
not to me. Send it to the full board.
All right, that's fine. You can send that as an option. I'd like to see options. I'd like to see that,
As a matter
what did we look at?
As a matter of question, do we observe the same number of holidays
Yes.
as these other entities, all 10 or 11? Or is
They
there
follow the
difference
same
there?
state holidays.
It depends,
I've heard that there's 13 holidays, I've heard that there's 10. So there's another segment to it that if you want to.
Do we celebrate Cesar Chavez Day?
I'm not exactly sure we follow
so I don't-
exactly
So we have
the
New Year's
state
Day,
code.
we follow New Year's Day. Do we follow Martin Luther King Day?
It says it right here on the on the policy 23rd.
Okay.
Those are the 11 days, right?
Right.
So you celebrate Columbus Day instead of Martin Luther King Day.
No, we have Martin Luther King Day on there too.
I mean, instead of, Cesar Chavez Day.
Yeah.
So we have,
Those are all the 11 holidays that
11.
have been deliberated and decided that NID,
For our MOU.
for our
Yes.
And I would-
organization.
And then the policy mirrors it, because
Yeah.
we want to give,
Right.
for the unrepresented folks,
Yeah.
they get an equal,
And, yeah, and I couldn't
So,
tell you whether or not
holidays.
these are the same exact holidays that the state of
they
California
are,
or the
they are,
federal
except
government.
that we observe Columbus Day and they observe Cesar Chavez Day. You swap that one holiday.
Okay.
And so, anyway, so I just think that, I don't know why we wouldn't just be consistent with state, why are we trying to be different? That's my concern. What's the point of trying to be different? I mean, if you look at other people's, and you could have
so
seen like a general
the
consensus.
point of, modifying the policy was not to review and understand if we were celebrating consistently or not. That, changing this, any significant change to this policy would have had to be negotiated and meet and confer with AFSCME. So AFSCME agreed in this unique situation, with the calendar year, coming
Did they agree on
over.
paper, or did they agree verbally?
Jana met with them.
I met at a meet and
Verbally.
confer with them and shared them as I always do when we, get their input on policy. We would have absolutely no flexibility to make anything significant without first going and negotiating the change within the MOUs, which is forthcoming in the next month or so. So, and they understood it was only meant to handle these very rare occasions for the New Year's holiday. And they said, that looks fine, we'll make sure and put that change for review when we're negotiating.
Right. So if it was that very specific thing, then we should be very specific in our language.
I think it's plain specific the way it is, and I move that we move forward.
Yeah, we can carry.
So there's so we've got two options here. We've got either leave it as is. Director Brewerwagen's okay with it.
Fine with it.
Director Peters would like the language to be more specific, and what I have written down is if New Year's Day, January 1, or something along these lines, falls on a Saturday, then the observed holiday shall be, the holiday shall be observed on January 3rd of the year it occurs.
Okay, so does that mean that on January 1, so it says, the next paragraph says, employees that are required to work on holidays that fall on their work days, which is now going to be on a Monday,
Well, we're not
which is their
changing
work
that.
day. No, listen to me.
Okay.
Employees may be required to work on a holiday, so now this January 1 holiday is on Monday, right?
Yeah.
And so usually people work Monday to Friday, but this is going to be a holiday, in which event such employees shall, in addition to holiday pay, be compensated at the overtime rate of pay for all time worked on such days. So does that mean that on New Year's Day, they're going to have to come to work on New Year's Day and get paid straight time, just as if it was a regular day, and then those people that work on Monday would be getting paid the overtime rate plus holiday pay on the Monday, January 3rd. Is that correct?
So for, only in operations generally, and some other positions, is there going to be work available on a holiday, because as you know, they're 24/7. So,
Now the holiday's not New Year's Day, it's Monday.
yeah, it's sort of,
Which frequently happens on any other holiday, any
Yeah.
Yeah.
other 10 of them.
All
there's
of them happens
President's
all the
Day,
time.
there's,
There's a Monday all the time. We have a Monday holiday off.
this holiday
No, I
work,
know.
again, this mirrors the MOU and what was negotiated on what is the benefit to the employee for having given up a holiday,
Yeah.
because you're scheduled to
Their
work.
work schedule dictates.
It's
So the New Year's
scheduled.
Day is just a straight day. They're going to work New Year's Day as if it was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And no pay to work on New Year's Day, but they'll get, whoever has to work on that Monday will get, holiday pay plus overtime pay.
Right.
They get the holiday
Monday.
pay, and they're compensated the overtime rate for all time worked on such days.
On Monday, not New Year's Day.
And they have the they have
On
the
their
ability,
observed holiday.
yeah.
The observed
On
holiday.
and they have
their
the ability,
observed
ability to bank it if they want instead of the pay, and they can bank it into their accrual. So there are options, so.
Yeah, when we deem the holiday to be the observed holiday, if a staff member is scheduled to be working that day, then they get the benefit of holiday work.
Okay. And so on January 1st, 2022, we are not going to declare New Year's Day actually New Year's Day. We're going to say New Year's Day
holiday.
is the 3rd.
Point of going through the week, when a holiday falls on the weekend, that's what this observed holiday is about. When it falls on a Tuesday,
So if it falls on a Monday and everyone else is back to work, all the rest of the world is back to work, because most people have holiday pay, they get in lieu holiday, they get a holiday credit if it was on a Saturday. So everyone else goes back to work the first Monday of the year. We're going to be on vacation, and so do we have to keep customer service open? Do we have to have more employees on duty that day because it's only an observed holiday with us and not with other people?
I don't follow you. What do you mean it's only an observed holiday with us? Typically, if a holiday falls on a weekend, most entities have some observance on a Monday through Friday schedule.
Yeah, and the state of California just gives holiday credit if it's on a Saturday anytime. Saturday holidays are just
So we're different from the state of California.
Well, we're an entity of the state,
We're not.
so.
But we're not required,
We're not an entity of the state.
We're a special district within the state.
We're not required to follow their state holidays. In
Yeah.
fact, in,
No, we're
FLSA,
not required, but
our
it makes sense if we did.
federal law governs our pay, and we're
All
not.
right, let's just bring it to the board. I'm fine.
We'll bring it to the board.
I just think that I would have liked to have seen what other people did, what, it seems some analysis of how you came up with this observed holiday, well, we observe, this seems very vague to me.
So, just to clarify.
Because you're saying it's only one day, you're saying only one day every 7 years does this happen, not just generally or sometimes or occasionally or whenever that happens, we're going to pick another day.
It does only happen once every 7 years unless there's a leap year in there.
What did we do before?
I don't know.
I think it was done, right after this occurred. If you look at the timing, it was 2014.
Well, we've been in business 100 years. There's been lots of New Year's Days on Saturdays.
That was before my time. So I would like to recommend that we either come to, obviously, we were thinking of maybe this would go to consent. It won't go to consent. We're going to bring it to the next board meeting with 2 language options, if I'm hearing it correctly. Either one with the language that is currently there, or a bit more specific about if it falls on a Saturday, the holiday shall be then observed on the Monday, January 3rd.
And then the third option I would like to be is just to align our holiday policy with the state of California policy, which is very simple. It's a very simple policy. We'd switch Cesar Chavez Day for Columbus Day. Only
that entails our conversation with the labor union.
Yeah. State of California has lots of labor unions.
That's a longer-term process.
But you do it before you bring forth things to the board or committees. You have to meet and confer prior. You have to notice them and meet and confer. They have to give their feedback, so it's a longer process.
Well, you already did it with them once, and so it sounds like it was necessary to me.
So that's a secondary construct after this, and I'm just curious as to what the difference in your mind in including
Because
Chavez versus
No,
October.
you're saying that our policy is completely different than their policy. I said the states are all, we have 11, they have 11, except for 2 different dates. And why wouldn't we standardize when we take our holidays? If it's a holiday falls on a Saturday, employees shall receive holiday credit. When the holiday falls on a Sunday, then holidays are observed on the following Monday.
We'll take a look at that and look at the language and bring it back to the board.
No, apparently you already looked at it. That's what I wanted to understand. You said you already looked at it.
We did briefly to understand, we were issuing the calendar, the policy says this, I think we need a slight policy change. Everyone, there was no consistency in observation, we needed to be in the calendar year, hence the very simple language.
Seemed logical to make it simple.
Inconsistency, that would help. I mean, if I could see the inconsistency, well, these people are there, these people are there, that would help. And then I have another just general question about this policy. What is holiday pay? How much is it like 1.5 times, 2 times regular pay? What is holiday pay?
You mean holiday worked pay?
No, it says employees shall, in addition to holiday pay. What's holiday pay? How much is holiday pay?
So if somebody just paid 8 hours for holiday pay is 8 hours at their regular rate.
It's in addition to holiday pay,
That's regular pay,
regular pay, standard pay.
yes,
And what's the overtime rate?
1.5 times.
Okay, okay, thanks.
It's listed in the MOUs, which
Yeah.
are online.
Should provide that, that'd be good. Bring relevant information to make a
Provide.
decision, that would be helpful.
Fair enough. We will
Okay.
bring this, if you're okay, and would
I'm
you like
very
to see a comprehensive overview of state and other municipalities?
Not
locally?
comprehensive, she said she did it, I just wanna see it, I just wanna
I'm
see.
just asking, do you want to see that listed in the staff report to help with your analysis at the next board meeting, when we talk about it?
I think if you've already done, you've told us you've already done the research.
Yes, but you
and-
mentioned other places that we didn't necessarily check, like,
Grass
we
Valley,
want to
California?
be consistent
Grass
with City
Valley,
of Grass Valley,
Nevada City.
Nevada.
Would you like to see it?
No, I just want the research you did, I want you to just document the research that you did and tell us, these are the people I checked with, this is how it shows inconsistent, this is what, just show me the reasoning and how we got to where we are. I mean, and say, this is what we could do, or that was what we could do, but this is a very vague statement. An observed holiday will be observed in the year that it occurs. If it's only once, I don't know why it has to be so vague, if it's so specific.
Okay, well, Jana, I think we can, work on that list of entities that you've looked at,
Okay,
and get them into the staff report for the next time we bring this before the board.
okay.
That would be great. Yeah, I think that, I just don't understand it, and there's not enough information here for me to try to understand it. I tried to look at it up, and I'm going, why am I having to do this when you did it already? Why didn't you just tell us what you found out?
Okay, Chris, are you comfortable with this?
Yeah. Well, I'm not with this whole discussion. I think it's a waste of time. I think you're wasting my time, okay, on this going into the weeds. This is what I talked about.
Well, this policy, this is our main
No, this does not
purview.
matter. This does not matter. We are a separate entity. We can do what we want to, and it's not vague to me, okay? It's very clear to me. Like I said, it took me a while to go in the calendar. Oh, there's only one holiday where that would happen, and that would be New Year's Day. I finally go, ding.
Well, let's say that. If that's the case, then let's say it.
It's,
We have to be specific.
Didn't
No, we don't.
say it in the
No, we
staff
don't.
report, though.
Staff report we talked about.
But the policy people are going to look at.
Can we move on,
The
Mr.
policy
Chairman?
are what lives.
Yes,
Thank you.
we certainly can.
Yes, please.
Yeah, let's bring public comment. Is there anybody, star 9, that want to weigh in on this? Seeing none? Okay.
I'm just trying to improve the product. Just an example.
All right, we will work on that and bring it forth to the first board meeting where we can.
Okay.
Thank you, Jana.
Thank you, Jana.
Thank you, Jana.
Now, we should have,
Oh, we got a lineup coming in.
Chip and Aurora.
Take a number out front. Take a number. Wait your turn.
Closing item number 2. Open item number 3. Resolution 2020-08, and delinquent irrigation accounts.
Yeah, good morning, board members,
Chip.
staff, and public. I'm Chip Close, Water Operations Manager. I'm here with Aurora Tipton, Customer Service Administrator. And today we appear before you to discuss potential clarification of NID Resolution 2020-08. Unfortunately, we're kind of at that grim milestone where we've been in this pandemic for almost a year, which, back at the beginning, I'd be shocked to hear anyone say that, but here's reality, right? So, as you all remember, Governor Newsom, at the beginning of the pandemic, basically on March 4th, 2020, proclaimed a state of emergency to exist in California as a result of the COVID-19 threat. And with that declaration, he made some executive orders that basically limited the district's authority to shut off water. Specifically, he says, it is the established policy of the state under the Water Code that every human being has the right to safe, clean, affordable, and accessible water adequate for human consumption, cooking, and sanitary purposes, right? So we get that. His EO went on to say that he was suspending the authority of water agencies to discontinue residential service for non-payment under health and safety codes. So we get all that, and the district agreed, and so we put together our own emergency resolution 2020-08, and it put forth a bunch of action items. One of them specifically said that the district will suspend customer turn-offs for the duration of emergency. And that's all great, and we totally support all that. But where we're running into a bit of an issue is that it's somewhat clear to staff that the governor's EO was very specific for water usage relating to public health and safety. It specifically states human consumption, cooking, and sanitary purposes. Our resolution is not specific on the type of water service we were referencing. Did we truly mean all water service? Did we just mean drinking water? Did we mean residential and non-commercial? We're not sure. So staff wanted to take this back up to the higher level here to have this open discussion. And the reason this has come to a head is because we are at that time of year where we true up last year's irrigation water accounts in preparation for the next water season, okay? And Aurora has done her due diligence and dug through all of our accounts and has come up with the fact that we have 286 seasonal agricultural water accounts that have yet to pay for their full 2020 service. So they're very delinquent. Generally speaking, what we do at this point in time is we send them a reminder and say, hey, look, you haven't paid for last year's water yet. Just a reminder that we'd like you to true up your account, and if you don't, you're in jeopardy of not getting next year's water. That's just typical operations of what we do. We haven't sent that letter because we're not clear if our own resolution pertains to ag accounts as well as treated water accounts. So we're looking to you for a little bit of guidance and potentially some clarification. And on a side note, the 286 delinquent accounts results in a loss of revenue of roughly $190,000. So it's not a small chunk of change. It actually adds up.
Chip, did you, I'm sorry if I missed it, but did you mention that the delinquency of their accounts, we have to come July or June of this year, we wanted to put this onto the tax roll?
I didn't touch on that yet, but I can. So essentially, the district has always stated that, look, if we have very delinquent accounts and folks are totally unresponsive, the water code allows us to reach out and lien the property and get paid back from the county tax rolls. And that's always been an option to the district. However, there are rules with that. And one of the rules states that the delinquency has to have been within the past year. And so if we ignore these accounts, assuming we're going to collect them through the tax roll, that also is going to come to a head. And that normal procedure begins in April. We send these folks a letter in April saying, hey, you're delinquent. If you don't pay up, we're going to send you to the county tax roll. Please pay up. Come June, we have a meeting of the board, and we put it in a resolution, get all our documents signed and aligned, and we send that to the county to make those collections. If the EO of the state and the district's resolution remains in place during that time, we will not be able to go to the tax rolls to get reimbursed for those delinquent accounts.
But do we have to serve them water anyway for the next year?
Well, that's the question. That's the question here today. Right now, our resolution is a bit vague to that degree. And we have these 286 accounts that, like Chip says, have not paid for 2020 water. They've received 2020 water this full time.
Did they not pay, did they pay their first installment?
So
Do typically these kind of people pay their first installment and don't pay the others, or do they just not pay for the whole year?
it varies. It's a little bit all over the map. So, about less than 10% paid 20 or 30% or less of their bill. There are 23% that paid 70% of their bill. So, and everywhere in between.
Less than 3%, so less than 20% paid.
10% of the delinquent account paid 30% or less of their total balance owed.
And how does this compare to a average year, or a non-COVID?
Normal.
And what was the
Normal.
other number?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
23% of the delinquent accounts paid 70% of their total balance. 70% or more.
And what about the rest of them?
It's various.
It varies,
Varies.
so I can go
Okay,
down.
varies, okay. Between those are the brackets,
Right.
between 30% and 70%.
So to answer your question, how does this compare to a normal year? Wow. Basically, we utilize the fact that if they want next year's water, they're gonna have to pay, and most people usually do come in and pay. If they don't, they go to the tax rolls.
And do they get a penalty or an interest charge on top of that bill?
Historically, they would. We've not charged any penalties or interest this year.
This year, because we
We suspended that.
suspended those.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right.
We also would have normally done turn-offs throughout the season.
Right.
So had they not paid their first installment, we would not have started water service. In June, if they've not paid their second installment, we may discontinue service. And then in August, we may discontinue service if they've not paid their third installment. We haven't done any of those practices this year, so it has somewhat inflated the number of accounts that are delinquent or severely delinquent.
Okay.
One last thing I'd like to bring up is we have notified these folks already that they are past due. Yeah,
Several?
so, yeah, they're aware.
There's another little caveat as well, is that what we're talking about in 2021 is not cutting off service. What we're talking about is not restarting service,
Not restarted.
right?
Well, you
So
served them last year.
They restart every year.
Yeah.
There's a process where every year they get mailed a letter. If we don't hear from you by this particular date, then we're gonna assume that this is the number of water service that you're gonna get for 2021, and it rolls forward.
And I know this is a little off topic, but how does this compare to the treated water side as far as the same scenario going on with people with,
That was my question.
you know?
How many treated water
I don't
customers and what's the
expect to have
magnitude?
I don't expect to have numbers here. That just came to my mind, because I realized this is just our resolution,
Covered both. Covered all water.
what's that?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that we have, and then adding on to that, what does legal say if we, if we change our, we have to create a new resolution at this point to say, you're not gonna get water next year if you don't pay.
Yes, and because this was done through resolution of the full board, I'm sure we're gonna have to have this discussion at a higher level, but we wanted to bring it forth to you and get the input using the committee process as we have done in the past.
Right.
I think we know full well, though, it needs to be escalated if we're gonna change the resolution.
If I recall correctly, though, there was, at the last board meeting, I think in January, we updated you on the number of
I thought,
back and delinquent accounts.
yeah,
It
you
was
said like
in the neighborhood-
170,000 of raw water. So how many raw water customers and what's the magnitude? You told us that last.
So per the staff report, there's there's
200.
200 and, what was it, 286, right?
I'm
For,
talking about treated water.
yeah, so treated water, we can get you the numbers, I don't have them with me at the current
Oh, you
moment.
don't?
Yeah, do you remember the rough estimate?
I thought you told us last meeting or something about
Two board meetings ago, I had mentioned that there was roughly about $660,000 in delinquent fees, and I
For
didn't have
treated
that
water.
broken down.
It was all.
It was a total.
Oh, total.
It was a total.
So that's what, if you deduct 190,
It was
roughly
around that.
around 400,000.
Sure, I would say it's probably about 400.
So 400,000
Right.
and probably about the same number, 300 or 400 customers.
I believe it's more than that, but I didn't specifically look at treated water because we were focused on.
On raw water.
Yeah.
And so I are you finished?
No, go ahead. There's a lot of stuff to this.
There's a lot, yeah. So a couple of my questions was, so you know, you read the first whereas, but whereas many small businesses that provide service to the essential health and well-being of Californians have experienced substantial reductions in income, which may hinder their ability to make payments for water service and subject them to water. And these are also workers. This is based more on the economic impact
Right.
of that people are out of work.
Absolutely, yes.
And so I'm wondering, why would our treated water people have more of a reason to be out of work than our raw water customers?
So we look at it from a different perspective. I hear you, and I totally agree and understand, but it's a bit of an interpretation problem, right? Was the governor's EO for a public health and safety issue? Was it really about residential water service only and not shutting off people for their water supply, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I read his EO, and if you walk down through it, if you walk down some of the other whereases, it specifically states out multiple times residential service.
Those are the whereases, right?
So it is hereby ordered in number 2, water system not subject to the requirements of the health case shall not discontinue residential service. It
Right.
clearly states
Right, and
that there.
number 1, did it die again?
Are we looking at the executive state?
This is the state
state
EO,
EO,
yeah, at the very bottom of the page.
Yeah, and so,
Oh, down there.
number
Yeah,
1, the
sorry.
authority of urban and community water systems as defined in Health and Safety Code 116902, which
Yep.
Health and Safety Code 116902 is definitions of that section.
Yes.
And it says urban and community water systems mean a public water system that supplies water to more than 200 connections. For the authorities have to discontinue it as defined and for non-payment. So it
Yep.
says to discontinue D and D.
Yep. See, nowhere in here does it mention ag water. It's all referencing residential.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does reference, businesses though, essential businesses in this EO, and it references that they may have difficulty paying for their, water bill, and I get that. But again, it's a little bit of interpretation, right? It's, most businesses throughout the state are paying for drinking water service as well. And it's not classified as residential, which is why I think he calls it out separately. And we're not proposing to shut off any treated water service.
Right.
We're fairly certain the board's direction through its own resolution was do not shut off any treated water service because it's a public health and safety issue, and we get it. Where we're stuck is our resolution wasn't specific enough to say it doesn't include seasonal ag, or it does.
Are any of these customers our annual water service customers?
So we're not talking about annual water services. Generally, annual water services are folks who utilize our ag water in the home for ancillary services like flushing a toilet or something like that. That's a public health and safety issue, so we're not proposing to do anything different with those folks.
Have you reached out to the county? Because I would imagine that these are pretty dire extenuating circumstances that they would likely, since this pandemic has gone on for greater than a year, they would likely waive that 1-year limitation. Have you talked to them about that?
Most of that stuff is set in regulation and water code regulation and whatnot, so I think unless somebody maybe writes another EO that loosens up those, I don't foresee those changing. As far as the leaning the tax rolls,
Understand that statute, the tax roll is in code. I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, how many of these 286 individuals, after we've sent them already 1 or 2 notifications that they're delinquent fees, how many have actually reached out to us and wanted to talk about payment plan, because we do have a number of those opportunities, right?
Right. So I looked at each of the 286 accounts individually. Roughly 10 contacted us at some point over the last year to say that they were having financial difficulties due to COVID. Of those 10, most of them were not willing to make a payment arrangement. They were just stating that they couldn't make payments. So the others have not made any contact at all. And 65% of the delinquent accounts are one minor or less.
No, I was gonna say, these are all little.
Typically family gardens, yards, they're not irrigation businesses.
Well, we've got this thing of big ag being, flood irrigating pastures, but in Placer County, a lot of the farms are 10 acres, and they're eking amazing vegetables and stuff out of it with they're really utilizing their water correctly. And so I'm leery. I don't know, I would have tried to reach out to the county and find out whether they're pursuing that. I would imagine we're not the only
Pursuing.
So the county,
extending the leaning of the property, extending that deadline.
That's not a function of the county.
Yeah, it's
I mean, it does go to the county for collection, but it's in water code
state
that,
statute.
the process.
And we cover 3 counties here, so we're talking Yuba, Nevada, and Phosphor.
so the bottom line, and I hear what you're saying, but to me, using the lien process, all you're really doing is kicking the can down the road, right?
Right.
Those folks still end up paying.
Right.
They just end up paying through the tax roll instead of sending us a check.
So if we go, so I'm a little confused about the lien. We would go ahead and give them water service again this year, but we put the lien on their tax bill, and then they get water again this year, right?
That's an option. But here's the problem with that option, is I'm gonna come back to you guys in April and say,
Yeah.
guess what?
Guess what?
We're not supposed to be charging on delinquent accounts, but
Right.
the lien process is due, and so we need to charge on these delinquent accounts.
Yeah.
So how are we gonna get back our treated water delinquent account money?
Well,
Are we gonna put these on their properties too?
We're in jeopardy of not being able to collect those either.
Yeah, we had
It
mentioned
seems
that there's
like we would-
probably an inability to collect on those.
Well, so if we're gonna let the treated water off the hook, why would we
Well,
hang up the raw water people?
I think that this is a two-part question. We are at a point in the year where we have to make a decision about how to proceed with providing service for 2021 to these accounts. The next part of that question is, do we proceed with the tax lien? And that would be across the board for treated water and irrigation. So we mentioned the tax lien to tell you the options, that if we intend to move forward with that, it may be an option to provide you customer service, knowing that we will transfer that to these balances
To
of the
lien.
taxes.
I'm good with that, all across the board. If that's what we're doing with treated water, that's what we should be doing with raw water. I mean, all of them say, hey, you're not paying, we're gonna report you, and we're gonna be leaning this last year's money, we're gonna put it on lien on your property tax, and you can pay it off, and so it doesn't go on your property taxes, or it's gonna go on your property taxes.
Problem that we end up there is the governor's order specifically talks about the suspension of
Well, I think we're okay then, because the governor's EO says that we cannot shut off service for lack of payment. We're not shutting off service, but we are coming for payment.
And we're suspending payment, it doesn't say we're foregoing payment, we're suspending payment.
Well, until essentially June, at which point we have a new resolution from the board that goes to the county and says, please collect that past due from the tax roll.
As an aside, I have VA Health, this is an aside, but it talks about this very thing. So VA said, we're not gonna send you your copay bill, but you're gonna owe the money in someday.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
right.
So it's just adding up.
Well, and
And I found out you can send them the money without a bill, right?
That's right, that's right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
So we're suspending the bill, but you're gonna pay, and how far do we stretch this out? And then the next question is then, when do we get legal involved in how we finagle this going forward? I don't have a crystal ball here this morning to really say, I get the point about, suspending, shut-offs and fines, but you can't go on forever getting free water, and if there's people now they're taking advantage of the system, besides, there's a certain amount of that always going on. It's like, hey, we got a rule, we're home free, and you can't be home free, because then we have this X amount, whatever it is, $500,000 or more of burden we have on our district at a time when we're already talking about
Dire straits
on the budget.
Well,
So that we're in a spot, right?
No, and I appreciate your comments, and back to you're not forgiven for this payment. In the governor's EO at the very end of it, where just below number 5, it says, nothing in this order eliminates the obligation of water customers to pay for water service.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that eventually these are going to come due. What we're running up against is we're running out of the tools for which we can collect those delinquent accounts, okay? And that's why we're here, is to discuss with you.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing that one of the favored options, or at least one of the options, is to not shut off water service, but to go ahead and utilize the lien tool we have in our pocket.
I'm sorry, if I may, I also think it's important though to let to differentiate treated water as a continuous service, this is a new service for a new year. And so that's part of what we need to take into consideration. Are we giving them a new service for 2021 when they've not paid for the service they requested for 2020? A little bit different than a turn-off. A turn-off, they're receiving a service, they're getting water, it's midsummer, and we go out and turn off and lock their box. That's truly a turn-off. We're now starting a new year and a new service, which is why every year we send them letters and tell them this is what you received last year, do you want the same service?
Right.
I think,
Which is a little bit different than treated water.
and it's important to recognize the fact that this emergency that we have in place, which the state also has in place, although, as Chip opened this morning, which is, we thought we would never be here by now, but here we are. We still, the outlook on this emergency is still very nebulous.
Right.
And we are now past the 2020 irrigation season. If we focus on the fact of delinquent bills and put it on tax rolls, we are now entering the whole 2021 season with this.
Right.
We may be entering this same zone next year on 2020. And I mean, we're at 190,000 we know of right now. We're at over 600,000 with all water services. If we put these on tax rolls, this is 0% loans for all of these customers based on maybe the hardship is there. We've had 10 customers actually call us and say, I just need a little time, I need some help, can we set a payment plan? After multiple outreaches to these customers. Concerned if we just kick it down the road to setting ourselves up for just, we'll just deal with it in April and set it on the tax lien. That's certainly a way to go.
I think if we notify people we're going to be putting it on your tax lien, it might prompt some people to go ahead and pay.
It might, that's certainly one avenue, and we do that every year.
Right.
We can also use the tool available now to say, you didn't pay for last year, and in order to start a new service for 2021, we expect payment to be made.
And I'm in
Otherwise, we'll leave your account active, but we just won't get water.
I'm in favor of doing that for raw water, not for treated water.
I mean, I don't think we can touch treated water. I think treated water is locked
Because
up.
we've always told customers, I mean, this is the,
And then if we have a true hardship with small farmers, which we did it with drought,
They'll call.
and then they'll call besides, then that's an opportunity. We gotta get their attention, because this is not
gotta
getting
get
their
their
attention.
attention. But we also, why are we so willing to forego the 400 and something thousand of treated water customers' debt?
Well, I don't,
It's a different.
Because that one is covered clearly by state EO.
But it says nothing shall eliminate the obligation of them to pay.
They will have to pay eventually, you're right?
How? What if they
I'm
don't?
not sure. I guess we're gonna have to cross that bridge,
Unless we put that forward, we're never gonna know. And if we
Right,
have to do
so
it within a year, we should do it.
Again, I expect we'll be having further conversation come April
In April.
about where we're taking this.
yeah, this
Yeah.
is clearly specific to 2021's irrigation season, because we're ready to go. We gotta send these letters out.
Yeah.
The treated water is, it's a good conversation, and I think we're gonna certainly have to talk to legal and figure out what
Right.
we can do come April in order to make
Right.
sure we meet that tax obligation period that's in statute.
And you mentioned something that was pretty critical, because typically, everyone down in Placer, everyone I've talked to, they say if you get shut off and you forego your water, even if you forget to pay and you get cut off, you never get that water back, because there's so many other people in line for it.
There is that potential on
And so-
some of our locked up canals, yes.
Yeah, and so you had mentioned that this we would say, unless you pay 2021, you can save your allocation, but you must pay your 2021 bill.
Depends on the canal,
Yeah.
I think. Not all canals have that stipulation.
So I think that's why we're having this discussion, right, is we're at that time where we need to send out those letters to say, hey, look, we still haven't received payment for 2020. We know you want service for 2021, or if you're interested in service for 2021, you need to pay up for.
So
Or
what,
get on a payment plan. We can offer them a
Exactly.
payment plan.
And we do offer that, yeah.
We have a couple customers on this list who are paying $50 or $100, two customers who are paying $50 or $100, and that's how they pay their bill every year. They make a monthly payment the entire year, knowing that by April, they'll be at zero balance.
Come due.
Got it.
So that, this one ninety includes that group that just still has a balance,
Right.
but we know they're paying it down, yeah.
So what is, you've been doing this for a long time, what's your wisdom say direction we should go?
So
Just as a matter of conversation.
as I included in the staff report, staff's recommendation is that we treat it as though, it's a normal ag service, doesn't apply in the EO, and that we go ahead and send out these letters of notification, offering up a payment plan, offering up these options. And, if they don't pay, then we don't serve them 2020 service, and then again, if we still don't get payment, we go to the county tax rolls. I don't think we can touch treated water, and that's not what we're talking about today. We're solely talking about seasonal ag, and that's it.
Well, I'm reading this order again, the first hereby, the number 1. So the authority of urban and community water systems, as defined in Health and Safety Code Section 116902, subdivision D. That subdivision D is urban and community water systems, means a public water system that supplies water to more than 200 connections. And then comma, to discontinue residential service, as defined in subdivision C, which was residential service means service to residential connections, single family, blah, 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 for non-payment. So it highlights both of these, not only the residential, but it also specifically calls out, as defined in subdivision D, which is community water systems, which supply water to more than 200 connections.
Correct. So a community water system is specifically related to treated water services. In fact, our 6 water treatment distribution systems have their own community water system number through the state.
No.
Ag is not classified under
Community
that.
water system. Okay, that's a good clarification. That's what I wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I don't want us to cut people off, because I don't think that ag or raw water customers have any less hit on their economic finances than our treated water customers. I think that they're equal, they're equally impacted. People that have ag, and a lot of people have, 1 gallon of it, really very low producing wells, and they rely on this water for all of their exterior watering. And
Yes, and I would hope that those folks are annual customers. And again, we're not attempting to adjust for those at all. This is only those folks that
summer
get,
only.
yeah,
Summer
April
customers only.
15th through October 14th. That's the
That's
only
what you're calling
customer.
annual customer. Annual customer.
That's
Annual,
that's
seasonal
Okay,
customer.
yeah, because I was lumping in winter water, thinking, oh, I've got some of those. That was a new term.
Yeah.
Well, there are roughly 10 accounts that receive a winter service, but that is different for billing purposes than an annual customer. An annual customer is billed monthly throughout the year. These customers are billed in April for their full balance due for summer and.
Oh, that's where my confusion arose, because when you said monthly, so this is a new term to me, the annual customer and monthly, because some people it makes sense if they got, based on, we have monthly income to pay their bill monthly.
Yeah.
I think the annual or the constructed conveyance.
It's a service we no longer offer,
Okay.
and they're relevant.
Those customers is what they're talking about on annual.
Right, those are generally the customers,
Yeah.
as you said, using the water account. There are
Right.
about 10 here that are receiving a winter service. So,
Well, I'm equally concerned about recouping the money from the liens of the treated water as well. I mean, if we don't have any, if they just say, well, forget it, we're not gonna pay, and we don't have any leverage, I would put that out there.
I hear that loud and clear, and we will address that, but I think for today, the question is, do we start the mail-out process to these customers, notifying them of the delinquency and the potential for not receiving 2021, raw water?
And encourage that they can get on a payment plan and offer up a payment plan.
Offer up
so
a
they
payment
can
plan, encourage them,
encourage
all
them
customer
to
service,
start paying
reach out to
something.
us. Yeah. Because we don't have the capacity to reach out to every one of these 286 on an individual basis and leave messages and keep trying to.
Or send them a letter.
Well, the letter will
That's
be
what I mean.
Yeah.
individual,
We get them. So the question, I guess,
Put a big
this would be a bit of a, this would be a bit of a, I think, it's not exactly how our resolution 2008 reads. So, we had anticipated that we'd bring this for authorization by the full board to do this letter to send out. It's the same conversation, but we have the letter to go out as the authorization of the full board instead of just, we just needed to run it by you as a APC through the committee.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate to inform the board that staff's interpretation of D, suspend customer turnoffs for the duration of the emergency applied to, treated and public health and safety water supplies,
Yep.
and not necessarily seasonal ag.
Right.
I concur.
Okay.
All right. We will move
Good.
forward under that,
Okay.
guys.
We're moving
We'll be
forward.
back.
That's great.
While you're here, Chip and Aurora, I wanna say kudos to customer service. And this was happening before they knew my name and who I was when I called, right? But I always get great customer service, and I always get a call back when they say they're gonna call back, and I really appreciate that level of professionalism with our customer service. I've had a couple of issues this past year, but, each time, they're stellar, so thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the feedback. I take pride in being one of the only agencies around where you can call and somebody's actually picking up the phone. It's not press 1 for this, press 2 for that, and then you press 3 and you get hung up on. Yeah.
And they're very pleasant to talk to besides, so.
Yeah, they are.
They really do
They do a great
follow
job.
through quickly, so I appreciate that. Very cool.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good, thanks. Oh, are there any public comment on this item? Don't skip that before we
Yeah, don't
close
forget
down.
that, there should be on this one.
Star 9, anyone in the public who is, wants to make a comment? Okay, then we will close this item and open the last one. Item
Thank
number
you, guys.
4.
Thank you.
This will be going to the board. Yeah. Okay, and this is, relatively quick. This is just a department update for safety. We typically have these. Safety department is, 2 folks, Don Bird and Cindy Ware, who, we have January activities, maintenance department. So we met with, a subcontractor, and they're working on the Snow Mountain water treatment plant cleaning. That makes sure that that the contractor has appropriate confined space and fall protection activities and equipment ready to go. So we made sure that we went out and met with them.
Snow Mountain Water Treatment Plant, where's that?
Yes, where's that?
Snow
What is
Mountain, that's up off of, it's above the Nevada County Government Center, up in that area.
We have a treatment plant, that's one that's just
Yeah, tiny.
next to my,
It has to be tiny.
is it one of the 6? It's one of the 6?
Yes.
Is it full on, don't dump chlorine in the ditch or anything like that?
No, it's got a little reservoir to it, and,
Okay.
we supply, a lot of, I don't know the number of connections off the top of our head.
I wonder what the capacity of it is.
Chip would have been able to answer that if
Yeah.
he was still here.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I don't have the total.
Well, that was new to me too.
volume.
I can never name off 6, but I didn't know we
Yeah.
had another one.
Sorry, I don't
That's
have
all
the
right.
specifics
Yeah.
on that.
That's all
I
right.
apologize. Now, another treatment plant, so this was a, suggestion by our insurance company when they came on board last June, or July rather. They did a, walkthrough of all of our, number of our treatment plants and gave us recommendations on, safety recommendations, risk analyses. One of them was a fencing, sort of around the tank here at Lake of the Pines. So we went ahead and did that and made that recommendation a reality. So appreciate to the crew for doing that. We have a number of syringe needles that fall in any given area of the district service territory on any given time of year, and it's just due to the homeless population and what's going on. So we sometimes get the call. A couple months ago, we had to pick up roughly 200 used syringe needles that were dumped into one of our canal berms, and so we had to call a specialty company to come and take care of those. When there's just a couple syringes, our team knows what to do. We've been trained, so we utilize long reach and appropriately dispose it properly. But when it gets to be too big, we call in experts.
Where's the Big Oak Valley?
You know what,
Big Oak.
Derek Peters, I don't have
Have
that.
you heard of it?
Yes, it's off of, Highway 20 down below Pin Valley.
Ah,
There you
It
go.
goes out to the, south off of, Big Oak, the road is,
Okay.
just at the bottom of
It's
it.
in our division though, I mean, it's in our district, within district boundaries.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. This was the one I was talking about, the DS Canal. We hired JM Environmental to come and do syringe needle pickup And that was a pretty big job. That cost us a chunk of change for them to drive up from Sacramento. They're a specialty environmental company. Came in their Tyvek and their full-on, their gear
2 dozen syringes?
is a lot.
2 dozen.
Yeah. I don't want messing with that.
No.
No. So we do a number of trainings. Here's just a list of some of the classes, new hires that have been hired for specific vacancies throughout the district. Safety is responsible for training them on all updates and notifications. So we go through a series of trainings out here in the East Annex, and they just list what they've done in the past month. Finally, there's just a number of general administrative activities that they do. One of them, it was a new transfer truck, and so we have to build a test process for that specific. Every time we get a new piece of equipment, we have to build a specific test for each of the specific vehicle equipment that we do. And so we work with the manual and the manufacturer to make that. We had an oil spill up on 80. NID continues to lately be the first responder to oil spills that happen along Highway 20, Highway 80, or anywhere within our facility. We have a spill response trailer that we invested in a couple years ago. It's got wattles, it's got pigs, it's got, hazard equipment. And so we have been typically one of the first calls that come in that says, hey, there's a water system and there's a truck that has some number of gallons of diesel that's spilled over, and you should come take a look at it. So our crews mobilize, get up there, and this was right at Immigrant Gap, right where Highway 80 goes out. And so there's a small section of water that comes from the south side. It's a feeder to the Yuba, South Fork of the Yuba, and we went there and helped clean it up.
Do we get reimbursed?
Typically not, because sometimes if you see here again, there's a accident that happened with a fire hydrant. We'll go after insurance agents typically for something, but
you make a project,
we make a project, we submit a claim when we can. Yeah. Yep.
Didn't we do that on that one where the diesel spill? Is this the same spill?
No, this is different.
It was a different truck. I thought we pursued that one where the truck went in the creek and the diesel did.
Yeah, that's the one you're thinking of. There was a couple pictures. Yeah, that's what. Well, there was one off Cisco off of Highway 20. Yeah. And that was a year ago. There was actually a little fire that started off of that, and we will pursue insurance and claims against the insurance of the individual driver. This one in particular, I believe, was a Amazon delivery rented from, if I remember correctly, rented from a Ryder truck rental.
Because this is out of our district, right? And so it's not, and it's kind of far afield, and so I can imagine it probably costs quite a bit to mobilize up there and our staff time to do it.
Is the trailer kept here or up at the,
It's here.
It's here.
It's here.
Yeah.
So I would highly encourage seeking repayment. I mean,
We are. But
Well,
like I said, this was
don't.
I said we try when we can. This one in particular was it was an Amazon delivery of equipment through a rented Ryder truck.
they must have insurance, though.
I think Amazon does,
Yeah, I
but
would
it's
hope Amazon.
pretty difficult. We're working on it.
Yeah.
So we do when we can. There are certain ways. A couple years ago, we had a vehicle smash into we have vehicles hit certain things all the time, whether it's a fire hydrant. This one, a couple more down, we hit a fire hydrant. We may or may not have the vehicle information, or it might be a hit and run. So we try as best we can. This particular one, we had to go to the CHP. There was an accident on Highway 174, if you can see that one, incident with a hydrant. We're pursuing that. So our safety department helps with pursuing those insurance claims. Let's see. Any questions regarding this? I don't need to go down the specifics. Did anything reach out at you?
What PG&E claim?
So that is, this And, a few months ago, there was a rupture on an emergency outage, if you recall, across from the golf course here in Nevada City, Grass Valley, across from the Nevada City Golf Course on West Main. And there was a rupture of one of our high-pressure transmission lines. After excavating and figuring out what was going on, there was a PG&E natural gas line right on top of our water treatment transmission line that's been there since the 70s. It's been there for quite some time. Nobody's seen it for a while. It's running water down West Main Street in Grass Valley. It ruptured.
The gas ruptured?
No, the water treatment.
The water ruptured.
The water line ruptured. After some analysis and review, we eventually got a bill from PG&E for about $85,000 because it disrupted their system as well. It ruptured their gas pressure.
The pressure of our water.
Yeah. So they went in and fixed it, billed us for about $80,000 to fix their line. Upon reviewing and understanding actually what happened, turns out that they then said, well, it's a long story, and I don't want to go into it, but we had to review a number of different aspects, went to the county, had to figure out when these lines were inserted, when they were put in. Turns out that the gas line was put in after NID's water line back in the 70s. There was a slight nick on the water line, which over time, I think had damaged the transmission line.
This is forensic looking at the water pipe that ruptured?
Yeah. So in conversations with the county and multiple conversations with PG&E and their claims and our claims, we've come to some agreement that they're not going to bill us for the work that the work that they had to do in order to assess.
All right, so you saved $85,000.
We did.
Awesome.
And today, that water pipe and that gas pipe would have to have how much separation?
Yeah, it's not to be in the same trench. Period.
Right.
Probably 10 feet separation between the two.
I don't know about gas line. I know about electric. And
Yeah.
You have to.
10 feet, and I don't know the specifics about the gas line, but today's standards, I would imagine it's at least 10 feet.
Yeah.
But it cannot be in the same trench.
On top of
Just in the same trench.
And the gas line was on top of the water line.
Correct.
Wow.
So we had to go through that.
And it works till it doesn't.
And it's been there for 40 years.
Yeah.
So.
Good.
Okay.
Anyway, that is an update of the safety department. Any questions from the public? Okay. Seeing none, that concludes the administrative practices meeting. It is 10:19, and we will be done. Thank you.
Thanks.